All right, let's do it. There's so much going on today. We got a huge announcement about what's going on with oil, the crypto market, where XRP price and the actual market is going, what's happening globally with other markets, gold, silver. We're going to cover all that. We got some updates on the Clarity Act. President Trump actually tweeted about the Clarity Act specifically. We also have some updates of kind of what's going on with that. Man, there's a lot of things happening right now that could affect the price. I was looking, as I was going through the content I was making today about XRP, if we do not hold levels like 127, right in that area, if we fall below 127, we could go to $1. So obviously it's very important how the next kind of few days, few weeks play out. And, I'm going to try to give you as much information as possible so you can be properly prepared for what's to come. And, I'll try to answer as many of your questions as we go through today. But it's so great to see you guys. How is it going? I just wanted to, spend a second here and just to thank you guys for all your support, showing up every day to the stream, to the channel, to watch content, to learn, to grow with me. My heart goes out to you. It's just an absolute honor to spend this time with you. And I just really appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. All right. All right. Let's do it. We got Ariana here checking in first. Great to see you, Ariana. Peter O'Neill's here. I'm just going to say Effect. Great to see you, Effect. What's going on? Andrew's here. Great to see you, Andrew. Let's see here. Wayne Smith getting excited with the caps. Hello, fam. I'm getting even more excited for what could be a very good start to unfold as predicted by Jake Claver. Yeah. Just really quickly, I'm really glad this is happening. You know why? Because Jake is either going to be right or wrong about what's about to happen. And we're finally going to know if his theory was built on something real or if it was built to gain followers and clout. So I'm really excited to answer that direct question. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you so much. And we're going to touch base on all that today. Brandon, what's up, dude? Great to see you. Would love to do some content about the AUDD, Australian stablecoin running on the XRP ledger. Brandon, I've been covering this in several videos I've done over the last few days. I don't know if I have something directly on this stream, but you know what, Brandon? I got you. You know what? Let me add something here. You know what? I'll play a video and I'll find some stuff for you, and then we'll talk about it. All right, let me do this then. First off, we are going to. Did I break it? No, we didn't break it. Okay, Brandon, give me a second. I'll load something up about the AUDD plus XRP. I got you, man. Give me a few minutes and I'll get that going. I did want to say a few things before we get started because there's just so much to go over. One is if you're interested in joining the Cryptonaires Discord, it's absolutely free right now. Come on in. We do have people online hanging out, posting news. Richard's in there. We got a full team in there providing clarity on what's happening in the crypto markets. And it's a great place to just kind of learn. And if you want to kind of talk to me in real time, that's the best place to do it. We are going to be kind of relaunching this: education, growth, connections, insight. And we just got a really great team of people put together now in the background who are excited about learning and, of course, sharing as much crypto content as possible. That'll help you kind of set you on the right direction of where you should be looking in the crypto space. So I'd love to see you guys in there. Thank you for your support. I did want to say, if you're just joining the stream, make sure that you're liking and supporting the stream, and that'd be really cool. Now, really quickly, I don't know if you guys saw this, but all of a sudden the anti-CBDC rhetoric is now actually in a bill. It's in the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. So I don't know what the Road to Housing Act has anything to do with central bank digital currency, but there is a provision now in this bill. If it were to be passed how it is, it would ban central bank digital currency here in the United States until 2030. And so I did cover this in content yesterday. If you're interested in getting more details about that, please go take a look at yesterday's content. I didn't want to spend too much time here because obviously this could be removed or changed, but it really would block the U.S. from setting up a central bank digital currency. The road to the House package adds central bank digital currency section that prohibits the Federal Reserve from directly or indirectly issuing a retail CBDC through, to consumers through financial institutions or under other intermediaries. The ban would sunset on December 31st, 2030. So interesting to put like a time limit on it. I think, if you're looking at what's happening around the world with central bank digital currency, you are seeing a lot of countries aligned with this 2030 narrative, and that would really kind of make sense. My opinion on central bank digital currency is obviously there's some issues as far as privacy and several other things. But if other countries are testing it and moving forward with it, it would kind of be silly to not at least be working on this in the background. So, it does open up a door for Ripple and for RLUSD. If the Fed cannot roll out a retail digital dollar until 2030, that removes the direct competitor to private compliant tokens like RLUSD during a critical adoption window. So, if Ripple doesn't have to compete against the federal government for a stablecoin, their stablecoin would obviously be more useful, right? And if you're an institution and you had to choose between Ripple stablecoin and like the federal government stablecoin, maybe you would lean 50-50, maybe you lean more towards the government, who knows? But this would actually give Ripple and like Circle and other top stablecoin creators a boost, actually. So it was really interesting to see this pop up. I don't know if you saw that, but I'm paying attention to everything I can. We did, I made a video earlier with some of this content about Charles Hodgkinson. I did want to play and get into this. Charles has shaved his head again, and he is very spicy, very, very spicy right now. And he's kind of sounding off about the Clarity Act, and people are sharing this. And I wanted to get in and play it and go through it. I just want to just check in because I got sidetracked there. Just want to say hello to everybody else. Mind, great to see you. We got Kiffer, great to see you. 1988, good year, good year. Let me see here. Winter B is here. Great to see you, Winter B. Richard's here. Great to see you, Rich. Glad to have a conversation later. Tracy is here. Great to see you, Tracy. All right, we got the usuals here. It's awesome to see you. Vincent, what's up, Vincent? How's it going, my man? You're looking good in your suit there. Game of Cats, great to see you. Husky Tom, great to see you. Big Kahuna, always nice. I hope Luna is doing well, Husky Tom. Always a pleasure, my friend. We got somebody checking in from Portugal. Great to see you, man. I hope life is good. Brandon, what's up, man? Yeah, you know what, Brandon? Here, I'm going to cover that for you right now, Brandon. Let's just dive into that, Brandon. Brandon was asking about the AUDD stablecoin on the XRP ledger. And let me see what I got for you. Here you go. All right. So what Brandon's asking about is there's a new Australian dollar-backed stablecoin that was launched. Did you call it? Yeah, Australian dollar. In Australia's regulated stablecoin issued by the AUDC PTY Limited under an Australian financial services license, which sits natively on the XRP ledger and Stellar. So this is actually available on several other chains. It's the AUDD stablecoin, is an Australian digital dollar that meets the speed, efficiency, and transparency and the demands of a growing shift into the digital world. Available on multiple blockchains, including Ethereum and ERC20 tokens, Stellar, XRP Ledger, Solana, Hedera, XDC Network, Base, and Redbelly. And so, what you're seeing here is you're going to get a lot of stable coins launched over the next few years. It's just, that is the future. I was doing a video earlier, and I think like 30% of all transactions that happen on blockchain over the last year happened through stable coins. It was like $30 trillion, if memory serves me correctly. It was a lot. And so that's the future. And some of the biggest markets like the US, like the Euro, Great British Pound, Australian dollar, all the places, you're going to see all the stable coins launch. And the reason the XRP ledger is going to be home to a lot of this is because if you're doing cross-border, whether it's, let's say you're doing a payment from Australia to the US or vice versa, or Australia to Europe, whatever, you're going to need a solid bridge asset in between to reduce friction of that payment. And so it just makes sense that you're starting to see different currencies pop up. And it's going to be like that for the next 12 to 24 months. You're going to see a lot of launches. And it looks like Australia and certain companies there are aligning with the times because they know how popular stablecoins are going to be. I hope that helps you, Brandon. If you want some more information, I can try to work that into another video. But we have been talking about it recently. Jake might actually know what he's talking about. Man, we're gonna see, dude. Like I am rooting for him. I really am rooting for him. Now's the time, right? Now's the time. If it's going to happen, now's the time, right? And I don't know. I've seen. I don't put him too much in content anymore. You know, I think either you love him or you hate him at this point. And you know, I just don't really want to be in the middle of all of that anymore. But I'm really rooting for him and the XRP community. I'm still not a believer in you know, his theory and what he thinks is going to happen. But I would love to be wrong. You know, that's the great thing about showing up every day, doing the research, spending the time. You know, I can form my own opinions on it. And you know, I'll be rooting for him, man. I'll be rooting for the community. Definitely. We're going to go through it here in just a minute, though. We got a lot of stuff about oil and all of that stuff. Okay. So let me continue here. Let me just touch base on regulation and the Clarity Act, and then we're going to get into what's going on with oil and the Strait of Hormuz and Iran and all of that stuff, because it is causing a little bit of havoc out in the world. Here is Charles Hodgkinson.
This bill, as written.
Oh, excuse me. There is, I believe this clip has some F-bombs in it. So there's multiple clips online. I think I pulled the one. I think he swears twice in this clip, in the start and the end. Just, you know, if it is, and you do have kids in the room, I just wanted to prepare you just in case.
Everything starts as a security. XRP starts as a security. Cardano starts as security. Ethereum starts as a security. All kinds of things there. Do you understand that an adversarial SEC, this is a fucking wet dream? You start as a security. All new cryptocurrency projects, the legacy ones like Cardano and Ethereum and XRP, will likely be grandfathered in. Everybody else starts as a security. All new projects. And then rulemaking in a room with people, eventually the Democrats who are right now campaigning on all crypto is corruption, crypto equals Trump equals bad, will kick into effect. It'll take years to get through, and then these standards will come out. And instead of having Scary Gary rolling the dice with no law and ambiguity in a court that's favorable to us, they now have HR 3633. With no developer protections, they were stripped out.
HR 3633 is the Clarity Act. If you're wondering kind of why he called it that and not the Clarity Act, it's just it is the Clarity Act, right?
Here. Everything starting as a security by default, and numerous procedural attack vectors to keep you as a security forever. So people, have a fact-based conversation. Read the bill. Start from source material, HR 3633. And are we really sure that we can trust that to rulemaking that has yet to happen by people who have yet to be appointed by agencies that spent the last 4 fucking years suing everybody and throwing everybody in prison? Honestly speaking, does that make any sense at all to you?
Passion. When I see Charles Hodgkinson talking, I think of the word passion, because that man is passionate about his beliefs. He wants to see a flourishing crypto market. And, you know, I agree with a lot of what he says. There's some things that, you know, I get a little uncomfortable with, you know, but it's all good. You know, he's trying to do his part, get what he believes, you know, the word out in his own words. And, you know, he's trying to use his platform to educate people what he believes is wrong with the Clarity Act and the bill and what it is going to do and what it's not going to do. And, you know, we've been so caught up in talking about stablecoin yield that, you know, we're not really talking about the other issues with the bill. And I think that's unfortunate. And maybe that is by design. You know, when banks kind of come in at the last minute and they try to put a stopgap in something, you know, sometimes what they're really after is not what's right in front of you. You know, anyone that's a good strategist knows that, you know, you're going to present a frontier while you're doing something over here, and you're going to want to focus all the tension here while something slips in the back over there, right? And so we really haven't seen what that is. Realistically, stablecoin yield should have been negotiated and talked about during the Genius Act, that was passed last year. And I don't know why we're kind of revisiting this now in the Clarity Act when banks had an opportunity to negotiate and talk about this last year. All right, let's keep it going here. There's more stuff. And so there's multiple clips of this. This one, like right before this clip plays, he's talking about XRP and Cardano. I don't think I got that clip. I do apologize, but let me play it.
I guess we just have to pass a horrific trash bill that makes everything a security by default, and it creates attack vectors through bureaucratic nonsense for the SEC to destroy all future American cryptocurrency projects. And also, there's nothing in this for DeFi. Nothing. Uniswap doesn't get anything. Prediction markets don't get anything. Armstrong can't even get his yield-bearing stablecoins. This is not a good bill. Through rulemaking, it can become horrific and weaponized, and it doesn't cover the core of what's going on in the industry right now. Then they say we can always amend the bill later. Then why is there such a rush to pass it?
Why is there such a rush to pass it? That's pretty simple. In my eyes, it's pretty simple. Trump administration made promises to the crypto industry. No matter what, they want to make sure that they get something across. It might not be exactly what the crypto industry wants, but they want to be able to say that's a win. We made you a promise. We delivered on that promise, regardless of what's in it. And at least that's my personal opinion. You can have a different opinion, but that's why I think. Now, just as I was coming online here, Donald Trump did tweet out something about the Clarity Act, and I haven't even had time to process this, let alone spend any time making content on it. So I'm going to give it to you hot and fresh, and we'll talk about it here. The Genius Act is being threatened and undermined by the banks, and that is unacceptable. We are not going to allow it. The U.S. needs to get market structure done ASAP. Americans should earn more money on their money. The banks are hitting record profits, and we are not going to allow them to undermine our powerful crypto agenda. That will end up going to China. See, like I didn't even have a chance to go through this, but I kind of figured, right? That's so funny. The Clarity Act to China and other countries, if we don't get the Clarity Act taken care of. The Genius Act was the USA's first big step to make the United States the crypto capital of the world, and getting the Clarity Act done is the next step to finish the job. And most importantly, keep this big and powerful industry in our country. The Genius Act, the banks should not be trying to undercut the Genius Act or hold the Clarity Act hostage. They need to make a good deal with the crypto industry, because what's the best interest for the American people. This industry cannot be taken from the people of America when it's so close to becoming truly successful. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald Trump. All right. Now, sometimes I'm like, did he write that or did an aide write it? Regardless, if that is really the focus, that's great. I tend to wait and see rather than just kind of assume, I don't know. I think there's been a lot of examples of politicians on both sides coming out and saying something and then doing something different behind closed doors. So before I get excited that this is going to lead to a deal, I'm going to kind of wait and see. Now, it is good that maybe pressure is being put on the banks. From all of the content that I've listened to on the Clarity Act over the last few weeks to a few months, I do know that Patrick Witt, the special, I don't know why I like to call him an envoy. I don't know what's in my head. I want to call him an envoy. He's like the special advisor to the White House on crypto. He has been saying that right now it's the banks that really haven't come to the table. It is the crypto industry that is making adjustments, compromise, and the banks need to kind of step up and do that. Let's see here. PRX Crypto says, I agree with some of what Charles says, but so many people are now saying it's okay for XRP because they got clarity. What about all of us? That should have been the attitude back when Ripple got sued. But let's face it, people were laughing back then and willing XRP to go to zero. and there was no camaraderie there. And then welcome to our world, everyone. Though I sincerely hope everyone does get clarity regardless. I think that's a very fair viewpoint. You know, we went through absolute hell during that time. I mean, like, I didn't have gray hair before all of that stuff happened with Ripple, and then all of a sudden gray hair started popping up. And I'm like, man, if I could pinpoint one thing in my life to getting gray hair, that was it. And it is frustrating that while Ripple was going through that, while the community was going through that, while the developers were going through that the support from the industry wasn't, let's all get behind Ripple. There was obviously some players that did, right? But there was a lot of players that did will it to go to zero. And we had to sit there and deal with it and take it. And it did hurt the growth of the XRP community. And it did hurt the price of XRP and the development and the people and like all of it, right? And I get where you're coming from. And I can understand it. It's frustrating. Let me see here. Let's see this domino theory. Yeah, man. I don't know. We're gonna see, guys. The great thing, like, listen, war is a terrible thing. What's happening right now, whether you think it's good or bad, people are dying. It's awful. And when we're talking about all of this stuff, understand that we might be on the other side of the world and it's not really affecting our day-to-day lives, but this is really affecting the people in that region. And, we can't really imagine or understand what these people are living through right now. And, I'm trying to be as sensitive as I can as I go through this information. So I hope you understand that, it's never good when bombs are being dropped on people. And, it's a very tense and confusing and frustrating, and people are angry. And I understand all of that, and I don't know what the solution here is. I don't know what the end game or the plan is here. I've heard multiple different reasons why this happened. None of them really kind of stack up or make sense. But that's all going to come out as we go through this. And a prolonged situation, a prolonged war would be catastrophic to markets, to the people of the region, to everybody. And we hope that it doesn't lead to that. Okay. Let me see here. Velvet Blues. What about XLM H bar, lower M caps, so quicker growth? I think XLM and H bar are incredible choices. Personally, I bought a little more H bar yesterday. I bought a little bit more Flare yesterday. Even though the market might be going lower, I'm still deciding to, put in $1,000 here, $1,000 there, and double down, buying a little bit more. I mean, well, $1,000 in a Flare bought me 105,000 Flare. $1,000 into H bar bought me over 10,000 H bar yesterday. So, it's a great time to add on to bags. Obviously, if prices go lower, maybe you should have waited, right? And you really don't know what's going to happen day to day. But it's a great time to dollar cost average, especially when prices haven't been this low in like 2 years. If you believe in the technology, if you believe that this industry is on the verge of mass adoption, then, take advantage of blood in the streets, take advantage of fear in the markets, take advantage of when everybody else is tired of hearing about crypto and dealing with it. That is the best time to be doubling down on what you think is going to happen. And, I love it, man. David Sachs just flipped H bar. What do you do? If there's something big happen, let me know. Let me see here. Robert says banks are undermining the Genius Act, which, though stable coins, is an effort to prop up the treasury market. Yep. Earning yield eliminates incentive to hold stable coins, which can be held by anyone. So, great point. The US has a problem, has a debt problem. Okay. No matter who's in office, you go back all the way to, it was Bill Clinton. I think the last time we had a balanced budget, right? And so you go back to Bush. It was like Bush, Obama. I can't remember everybody. Like, it's been so long, right? But it was Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump. Everybody, every president has spent more than the last, right? And we cannot get that under control. And so you need to find buyers of that debt so we can support the economy. And the previous buyers of that debt were Japan and China and the UK. And they are not interested anymore at this point to support that debt. And they are buying gold and other things. Central banks are buying gold instead of US treasuries. And so the US is like, oh snap. Like, what do we do? That's where the crypto stablecoin companies come in, right? Because all of these stablecoins are backed up either by cash or short-term treasuries. And that's really where you're going to get that maybe balance, right? You might not get it all, but that is what they're hoping happens. Thank God Elon Musk bought X. Okay. I don't know what that has to do with it, but value your opinion. Hello, Sensei, sharing good vibes and motivation to your channel. By respect for your knowledge and to the people. We keep learning every day. Thank you, motivation. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here. Yeah, Wayne says, I hope Donald Trump means what he just tweeted. Yeah, me too, man. And I think we all are hoping that that's true. I don't know, man. I think in my years of paying attention to these types of things, I've stopped believing what politicians say. I wait until their actions and seeing really what they do, because like they'll tell you anything that you want to hear to get you to change the narrative or the talking points or the news cycle. And it really is going to depend on, are they going to follow through with what they're telling you, And I think that's a pretty good advice that I wish my older self told my younger self, if in one of those situations. All right, but let me get into this because like there's some serious things going on with oil, and I think that's really what people are wanting to understand and talk about. So let's talk about it, okay? Okay. Iran once again says that they have closed the Strait of Hormuz and oil prices surged to $200. So really quickly, this stuff is changing by the hour. So I'm giving you information that I put together in the last like 3 or 4 hours. That could change by the time that you are watching this. So please understand that I'm just trying to use the most current version of information, and it is changing rapidly. Bear with me. All right. So, people are predicting that if the Strait of Hormuz is closed for a long period of time, that oil could surge to $150 or $200 a barrel, right? Like worst case scenario. The U.S. is considering providing military protection to oil and gas tankers traveling through the Strait of Hormuz in an effort to contain energy prices per Politico. Details include Trump administration is considering having the U.S. government back insurance needs for tankers. So one of the things is Strait of Hormuz is closed, oil prices are going to full send, and somehow this leads back to, a bunch of different things have to happen, and, XRP price is going to full send. Now, like a wrench in your gears here is the U.S. Considering on giving insurance to the oil tankers to do this, right? And that would get the boats moving again. You can use airplanes and Navy ships and all kinds of things to keep these tankers safe. Now, not necessarily saying that these tankers want to drive through this, right? That is going to be their option, the captains, what's best for their crew. But this is what the U.S. is trying to do to mitigate some of these issues. The U.S. is looking for ways to mitigate issues concerning war risk policies. Natural gas and oil supplies from Qatar and Saudi Arabia are a key focus. Restoring access to the Strait of Hormuz is being viewed as vital. Let me see. Do I have that video explaining why this is so important? Hold on. I mean, eventually this was going to happen, right? A war in the Middle East, shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, it was bound to happen sometime, but let me see. Hold on. I played a video the other day that explained this extremely well. I'm just seeing if I could find that video for you. 1 second here. Maybe I cannot find the video. All right, let me just keep going here then if I cannot find the video. It was like a 3-minute video that really got into why it was important, how much oil. All right, let me just continue here then. Let me show you this. So President Trump orders the U.S. Development Finance Corporation to provide political risk insurance and all guarantees for maritime trade traveling through the Persian Gulf. So after this was announced, gas and oil prices, actually dipped a bit. And so effective immediately, I have ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation, also known as the DFC, I've never heard of this, to provide at a very reasonable price political risk insurance and guarantees for the financial security of all maritime trade, especially energy traveling through the Gulf. This will be available to all shipping lanes. If necessary, the United States Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible. No matter what, the United States will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. The United States economic and military might is the greatest on earth. More actions to come, President Donald Trump. And then, so Iraq shut down its oil production in Rumalia, the world's second largest oil feed, which produces 1.5 million barrels per day, which is a lot. Okay, you got to understand that right now there is basically 100 million barrels of oil being produced globally per day, and there's about 20 million that goes through this specific region. All right, and here is the impact in the countries that it would impact the most. So this is, all the people, the Jay Claver people who are getting excited about this. This is the reason, right? A lot of this oil winds up in Japan and South Korea. Now, South Korea had one of the worst days ever in the stock market today, lost $270 billion in their stock market today. India's 50%, China's 50%, Europe 18%, United States 2%. Okay. And so here is the stock markets in these specific countries. Global stock markets post largest decline in months as Brent oil prices surge to $85 a barrel. Trump says the U.S. can fight forever. Obviously, this is not what markets want to hear. A lot of markets right now are pricing in a quick bombing and then try to come to a deal. I don't know if that's going to be possible. Obviously, I'm not an intelligence officer. I don't have any of this information that's going on behind the scenes. I just know what is kind of being put out on X and things like that. But South Korea's stock market lost 8%. Japan's stock market lost 6%. South Africa lost 6%. Germany's stock market lost 5%. Spain's stock market 5%. Italy's stock market 4%. United Kingdom 4%. France 3%. NASDAQ 100 2%. And China 2%. The market is beginning to price in a longer war. Not what people want to hear. And so here is South Korea's stock market crashed 7.23% at opening, wiping out $270 billion in market cap, also known as 390 trillion won. This is the largest single-day plunge since August 2024 yen carry trade crisis. Monday, March 2nd was a holiday, so this was the first KOSPI opening since the war between the U.S. and Israel began. The drop is driven by pent-up selling pressure from geopolitical tensions in the Middle East and fears of disrupted global energy and oil supplies. Now, continue here. President Trump is weighing in on backing militants to dislodge the Iranian government. Trump has reportedly spoke to Kurdish leaders on Sunday. Trump is reportedly open to the idea of supporting armed groups in Iran. Trump is mulling over several options publicly and privately. Who's going to succeed the supreme leader of Iran that was killed in an airstrike. Trump has repeatedly praised the Venezuela model for leadership plans in Iran. This is actually pretty silly because you haven't really changed the leadership in Iran. You only removed President Maduro. You still left his vice president and all of his infrastructure in play. So actually, this is a pretty stupid model. And like if your whole thing is regime change, and you only take out the person on top, you still leave everybody else that is supporting all of that negativity that you're trying to replace, right? You actually have to root everything out and start next with a fresh administration, not just one person. But all good. It is what it is. Oil prices have now erased all losses. So here, check this out. It's official. U.S. oil prices have now erased all losses seen under Donald Trump's administration of $23 a barrel since December. So all of the hard work that the current administration has done in the past, since they've been elected and brought into office in January of 2025, all of that has now been erased in just a few days. As markets begin pricing in longer disruption to crude oil supplies, U.S. gas prices are surging. Over the last 2 months, the average price of gas in the U.S. has surged from $2.80 to $3.11 on March 2nd. Tomorrow, we expect to see gas prices above $3.20, nearly up 15% in 2 months. This is catastrophic to Republicans in an election year. This cannot go on for too long. Okay, it's not good. And now there's also issues with other countries. President Trump responds to Spain banning the U.S. from using their military bases in Iran. The U.S. is now cutting off all trade with Spain. So this is more tension. He has a right to stop everything he has to do with Spain. He instructed the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to cut off all dealings with Spain. The U.S. can use Spain's bases if we want. We just fly in and use it. The U.S. doesn't want anything to do with Spain. So this is where we are. Here is kind of him saying that.
So we're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain.
All right. That's where we are. And then Adam Kobayashi says it's extremely obvious what's happening right now. Oil prices have surged $78 a barrel and it's up 42% since December. President Trump responded for the first time today at 2:37 Eastern time. President Trump ordered the U.S. Development of Finance, what we just talked about earlier, cooperation to provide political risk insurance for all guarantees in maritime trade. Why? Because oil markets are on the verge of opening for step 6. And so there's a really good thread here by Kobayashi letter. It's very extensive. I didn't want to read this all to you because this was going to take me like 45 minutes or an hour to go through all of this. What I will do is I will post it for you. If you're interested to take a look at this, please do so. But let me go back to what he's saying here. It says, because oil markets were on the verge of opening step 6, minutes after this announcement, oil prices declined as much as 10%. So on one hand, people are rooting for higher oil prices because they believe that it will lead to a collapse and XRP's price spiking. But this is kind of going against what you're trying to do. If this works, oil prices will kind of come down. If this doesn't work, oil prices will go up. Rising treasury yields in April 2025 trade war and analogous to surging oil prices and the current Iran conflict. An uncontainable surge in energy would bring step 6 in our playbook. So like I said, if you want to read that, please do. I did want to show you this. Right now, oil is trading in the low 80s for Brent and in the mid 70s for WTI, and a spike to $100 per barrel would add a noticeable but not 1970s style inflation pressure, especially as energy sensitive categories like fuel, transport, and some goods. The global benchmark for Brent is around $82 to $85 per barrel, near a 13-month high after it fell sharp rally tied to the Middle East conflict and risk in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. WTI crude is in the mid 70s with recent closes near $74 to $76 per barrel. Also the highest level seen in almost 2 years. Over roughly the last month, Brent is up 18% and WTI is up 13 to 15%. The last several days is up 4 to 7%. One recent session saw U.S. crude jump about 4.7% to around 74.5 per barrel, and Brent gained 4.7%, and it's another $3.7 to 81.4. Direct gasoline or diesel impact pump prices usually move roughly proportionally to crude over time. A 25% crude might translate into something like 15 to 25% higher retail fuel if sustained. Headline CPI in past episodes, a 20 to 30% sustained oil increase typically adds on the order of 0.03 to 0.08 percentage points to headline inflation over 6 to 12 months. So if this is a long drawn out conflict and oil goes to 150, 120 to 150, inflation could rise a few points. Obviously, this is only 20 to 30%, and you're talking 0.03 to 0.08. So this could be very bad for inflation. Like, we're trying to lower rates right now. The U.S. has to refinance a bunch of debt, and they can't do that if inflation is spiking. Core inflation to pass through to core is smaller and slower because firms only partially pass higher transport and input costs to the consensus and sometimes compared margins instead. A 25% crude move, 80 to 100, might give something like 50 to 80 cents more per gallon in the US. So, gas prices are definitely going to increase. Transportation services, airlines, delivery companies, and rideshare often add fuel surcharges and quietly raise base fares. Historically, periods of high oil correlate with noticeable increases in airfares and shipping rates over the several months. Food, higher fuel and fertilizer costs can raise farm and transport costs, so groceries see a gradual price creep. Physical good, appliances, furniture, building materials, higher freight and input costs may add a few percent to prices. So this is basically saying a lot of things in your life could be more expensive if this continues. Pharmaceuticals, plastics, and some manufacturings and possible utilities in systems that still rely on oil see a bigger cost and impact. All right. Let me keep going here. And so Trump did also put this out. The United States munition stockpile have at the medium and upper medium grade never been higher or better. As was stated for me today, we have a virtually unlimited supply of weapons. Wars can be fought forever. And so this was the quote. That's why markets reacted poorly and very successfully using just the supplies. At the highest end, we have a good supply, but are not where we want to be. Wait, didn't you say we had? Okay, never mind. Much additional high-grade weaponry is stored for U.S. in outlying countries. A little bit of propaganda here. Sleepy Joe spent all of his time and our country's money giving everything to P.T. Barnum Zelensky. So, oh man, I'd love to spend some time just, going through this, but I really don't care. Yada, 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 yada. Anyways, you can see that he believes that we can wage war for a long time. Spot gold falls below 5,100 an ounce and silver falls to $78 an ounce. Obviously, that could have changed. This was 3:28 a.m. as I was putting this together. And platinum took a dive today. Silver took a dive. Palladium took a dive. Gold took a dive. And trillions of dollars wiped out. We are approaching an extreme statistical event. Something has never happened in modern history. Do you understand what that means? More value erased in minutes than annual GDP of 99% of countries. We have officially entered the forced liquidation phase. This is what a liquidity vacuum looks like. Funds are being margin called. They're selling the assets left that still hold value just to survive. Do not hand them your wealth. It's been, I've been in finance for more than 15 years. When I exit markets completely, I'll say it publicly. And so, there is a little bit of panic. All right. I'm just going to take a break there and come back to this. So kind of crazy. The old Democratic scare tactic, prices could go up. Is it not a real? How is it a tactic, Blackhawk? But correctly, but more jobs are also created in that scenario. Which scenario are jobs created in? I mean, I think depending on your politics, you're gonna either disagree or agree, regardless of your politics. Politics shouldn't really play into this. It really is. If oil prices go higher, things are going to be more expensive. I think that's history. I don't think that's a crazy left or right thing. Obviously, a long drawn out war would be catastrophic. Plain and simple. That's my opinion. You can have a different opinion, but wars are not good long term for any country. All right. The multiverse. Yeah, I'm confused too of what jobs that it would create. I have a hard time understanding that. So maybe you can enlighten us about what jobs that this would create, because I'm a little confused. Yes, please. Yes, please help us understand that. So Velvet Blues asks, will interest rates go up and down? Okay. The Fed still believes inflation is ticking up. Okay. For the Fed to drop rates, to lower rates, they need to see that inflation is under control or going down. Okay. They are not seeing that right now. And if gas prices go up, it'll lead to higher inflation, which will counteract what we're trying to do. So rates will not drop in that sense. At least Jerome Powell will not lower rates. Now, Trump's Fed share pick will be in the job in a few months. And regardless of what's happening in the market, there could be pressure from the White House to lower rates. And that guy might decide to listen to Trump regardless. So a good economic model, no, you won't lower rates, but we are not in kind of what makes sense or what should happen. We're in this kind of alternate reality where pressure could be put on to lower rates regardless of inflation ticking up. Okay. Now that would cause inflation to go up even harder. And if you didn't like prices and how things were a few years ago, it would probably be very close to that, if not higher, if we do both of those things at the same time. I hope that explains it properly. Okay, so Blackhawk was saying that if war happens, that more jobs would be created because people need to feed the war machine, maybe like creating weapons and whatever else goes into that. Fair enough. I was missing that part. I wasn't thinking about that. So thank you for pointing that out. It might also have a negative effect though, right? You might gain jobs on that side, but lose jobs on the other side. You know what? Let's can we look into this together? I'm actually intrigued now. You know, you sparked my interest. In past situations of war, with the U.S. Going to war with other countries, has it been a net positive for jobs or a net negative? I mean, let's just look at the past history. That's the best way we can tell what might happen here in the future, right? So I'm intrigued. Okay, in the big 20th century, especially World War II, U.S. employment surged and unemployment fell to historic lows. Well, this is World War II. That really doesn't count, right? We need to see like the Iraq War, right? Here we go. Modern conflicts. Modeling of higher military spending associated with the Iraq War suggests that after an initial small bump in payroll employment, the long-run effect is fewer jobs. Fewer jobs than the baseline with lower defense spending. One study projects that the sustained higher defense spending leads to roughly 460,000 to 670,000 fewer jobs after 10 to 20 years versus a scenario where the resources are used elsewhere in the economy. So negative. I guess that makes sense, right? If you were to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on war, or if you spent hundreds of billions of dollars investing in America instead of going to war, that would lead to more jobs, right? Like that was some of the things that the Biden administration did to try to, like the CHIPS Act and a few things, right? They tried to invest so people build factories and get into these types of things and hire people, right? So I can see maybe where your mind went there, but looking at past data, it doesn't quite stack up. Now, somehow this could be different, but usually history repeats, right? So, yeah. Kind of crazy times, man. Biden isn't alive. You could be right, man. I don't know. I do not know. So Winter B says Trump is speeding up the inevitable, the dollar crashing. Better to pull the Band-Aid off quick than to slow pull. Fair opinion. You know, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, it's not up to me. It's up to the voters and what they think is going to happen. So it really depends. Like, is this going to be a successful campaign or a non-successful campaign? And whatever that looks like, I couldn't tell you. Is there going to be a solution here over the next few days? I don't know. From my time watching the news and things online, I've seen that like 9 or 10 countries now in the Middle East have been bombed. And I don't know what the pressure is from those countries, maybe on Israel, the US to stop the campaign, or maybe they're going to come help out. I don't know. I think during the last 12-day campaign, Israel was getting bombed a lot and they kind of wanted to stop, right? So I don't know if that happens again, but that's where we are. And it's a tough position to be in, right? Oh man, I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, understand the guys, these topics are always hard to talk about, and even though I know it's hard to talk about, we still have to talk about it, right? Because this could directly impact my well-being, your well-being, and your family's well-being. So even though we get into subjects that are quite difficult and a lot of people completely disagree with each other, it's worth just going through the facts so everybody is properly prepared. And I hope when I go through this information that you understand that I'm doing it because I too want to understand it, but I also want you to understand, what I think is going to happen, with all of this stuff. All right. Recon Scout Medic, what's up? Bodana's here. What's up, Bodana? So here, Ron says, wait, is that a picture with Ron and Hermione from Harry Potter? Love it. It says retail has been wiped out of crypto for ages. Will altcoins ever pump? The circumstances have never seemed to be good enough for retail. The war escalates, and now, I mean, yes, war would be worse for crypto, right? Uncertainty whether things are going to be, bad or worse in the future always puts people in a place of, let me just save this money because I don't know if I'm going to need it here, right? If people had extra money, right? Like a large part of the spending happens by, the most wealthiest people, right? I think the top 10% of earners spend 50% of all the money here in the United States. So for everybody else, everybody else in the middle, or in the lower class that's trying to get to the middle or get to the higher class, wealthy class is what I meant to say there. People are saving their dollars. They're counting every dollar because they probably have kids, school, trying to keep the electricity on, the rent paid. I mean, all of those things, right? I mean, even myself, I'm counting, where I have funds, how long am I good here for? If something happened, what do I need to do? Like, I'm even looking at that stuff, right? So I know other people are too. And when people are in this mode of not knowing what's going to happen, people are not going to be actively putting money into the crypto industry. And that's unfortunate because it lowers prices as people get more scared and sell. And institutions obviously will come in. And when regulations here, they're already buying, right? Kind of little bit by bit. They kind of take over the industry and they get more control. And that's unfortunate, but that's where we are. What are your thoughts about Iran having a spike in crypto outflow? You mean like I saw online that, people were saying that people were dumping the currency in Iran to buy Bitcoin and things like that? Is that what you're asking me, Billy? No, a draft won't happen here in the United States. No, no, man. Like that would be crazy. First of all, like you would need boots on the ground and you would need for it to be going really badly to be able to do a draft here. And I don't see that happening, dude. No. Yeah, I just no. Let's see here. Jordan says China is the wild card in all of this, in my opinion. If they decide now is a good time to invade Taiwan, then the three world powers would be in a war, and that would be World War III. Jordan, I think that's a great observation. Great observation. Well said. They have been training and preparing now for a few years, and sooner or later they're going to try it. And I've seen people think that it'll happen before 2027. Is now a good opportunity. I think if the U.S. engages harder, I think if the U.S. puts boots on the ground, then that would really open the door. Not saying that's going to happen, but I think you're not far off there. Yeah. So Damien says, I am buying until I can't. I feel that, man. I feel that. Yeah. And so a lot of people go back to, is this the start of a great reset where everything just needs to, be completely redone? I don't know. We will see. I don't ignore your username. Listen, there's like, I don't know how many comments come through, man. I don't ignore anybody purposely. Honestly, I don't. Let me look and see if I can find your comment. I mean, if I was here reading everybody's comment, I wouldn't get anywhere. So I try to do as much as I can, man. I really don't ignore you. What was your comment? I'll try to address it. Blackhawk, thank you, man. Love you, brother. Thank you for the conversation. Ultimately, war sucks because people die. I have lost good friends who fought next to me, and I joined the military at 17, and I hope it works out for all. Man, it's an honor to be able to have these conversations with you and to go through it. And we might look at something differently, but we are on this journey together, and I want the best for you, man. Send in the clones. I think if you take a look at what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, right, and the Ukraine war, and like that war has like come to a complete halt on the battle lines, right, because of FPV drones. And so you can have all the jammers you want, but when you have a cord connected to the drone and they're going out 20 or 30 miles. Have you seen some of those pictures of like just covered in the wire, all the wires? It's kind of crazy. But, all of these wars now are drone focused, right? And I would imagine, I'd imagine like you're going to have a future where it's going to be like drone on drone, right? You're already seeing drones take out other drones and things like that. But hopefully, it does feel like there's always going to be something going on in the world. It just so happens that we're in the middle of this one. And hopefully, I don't know, can we even turn down the temperature at this point? It's pretty hard to watch some of those images on the TV and what's going on. And I don't know, crazy. Just watch your video. And Charles talking out the side of his neck. XRP already has been deemed not a security. How or why to be changed? So KC. So what he's talking about there is a provision in the Clarity Act. And so did I cover it in the video? I thought I did. Where you have to, everything would be considered a security, and you'd have to go through the test to prove that you're a commodity. And that, I think that's what he's talking about. Yeah. Let me see. Do I have that here? I could just go through that with you really quickly. And oh man, I think I closed that window down. Like I'm when you make 4 videos a day, you have hundreds of windows open, and your computer kind of just starts to struggle. I always buy a new computer. I try to buy a new computer every year because I know I just gonna just wear it down. And I have to close Windows after a certain amount of time because my computer can't take it anymore. But you know what? I know how to find this. Give me a second. Let me see here. I put this together this morning, so I should be able to find what you're asking me about in just a second. Yes, here I got you. Yep. I found it. All right. I'm bringing it up now. Okay, so here you go. Hold on, where was it? Okay, here you go. Under the Clarity Act market structure framework, a token gets commodity treatment when the underlying network satisfies the mature blockchain functional and decentralization tests. In practical terms, that means no single person or group under common control can control the network, code changes, consensus, or token supply. The protocol is live and functional with real use of the chain, whether it's payments, DeFi apps, not just speculation. So something actually has to be happening on the chain, real use cases, not just a fairy tale chain. Governance is decentralized or rules based. So on-chain governance, broad validator set, rather than management decisions coming from one single company. So it needs to be decentralized. When all of the criteria are met, the asset is treated like a digital commodity. So I think that is what Charles was talking about when he says that. Everything starts as a security and then has to work its way to a commodity. But I get, like, when he said that, I even too was like, maybe, let me understand this a little bit better. And when I looked into it, that's what he was talking about. Let me see here. Recon says 70% of military age Americans are ineligible for military service unless there was a draft where history shows they will make exceptions. Yeah. See, I see your comments. Like, you're not blocked. I see it. I cannot read every single thing. Hopefully you don't feel like I'm not, doing that on purpose, because I wouldn't. You love the videos and comments on Flare. Keep it coming. Are you talking to Richard? Richard been making some good Flare content, man. That guy is deep into Flare. Let's see here. So Damien says, I ran AI to get an estimate price for all the possible use cases with all that have been announced. We're looking at a 5K XRP by the way of 3DR. Yahoo Finance just dropped an article minutes ago. Oil prices are surging and there's no sign of a let up. Yeah. I mean, I think I would be nervous, like, if I was Jake right now, because all the pressure's on him at this point. All the pressure's on him, man. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes at this point. Cause, like, man, could you imagine if it doesn't go the way that he's been telling people for the last 2 or 3 years? Man, that would just be brutal. I'm really rooting for him, man. I'm rooting for him. Oh man, that's tough. I hear you, Recon. That is. I hear you. I hear what you're saying, man. He did say oil prices would surge, but, like, saying something that that's going to happen in the future, like, I could say there's going to be a war in the world in the future, right? Eventually that'll come true, right? It really will boil down to, is it going to play out the way he said it will? So, like, we don't need to go back and forth. The great thing is time is going to play out, right? We're going to see what happens. That is the great thing about all of this, right? We can believe in something And then, you know, the opportunity is there. Is that fair? The opportunity is there, and you know, let's root for him to be right, because if he's right, we're all extremely rich. And you know, if he's wrong, then the community can decide what they want to do with you know, his version of events. It's very simple, right? If you're right, you're a legend and everybody will forget about the things in the past. If you're wrong, well, that's going to be even a harder hill for people to climb, you know? And you got to love that the passion that he believes though. So, you know, let's see any chance TRX becomes reputable and comes for XRP's lunch? Are we talking about Tron? I don't know, man. Um, you know what is, you can create another network. You can be faster. You can be more efficient. You can have more TPS. You can be cheaper. The hard thing to replicate is the company Ripple, right? There isn't too many companies like that, right? Private company wise, $50 billion valuation. They're the eighth most expensive or most valued company, private company in the world at this point. Okay. How much time, energy, technology, development, every category that makes them great, they excel at. And it's hard to recreate what they've built and their connections to traditional finance. Now, there are the Cantons of the world and the Solanas of the world, but you know, those are networks. You rarely have a company like Ripple itself that is competing at scale. I did a video earlier today, and I think it's out. It was looking at an announcement Ripple made today. It was this announcement right here. It was this one, right? And I don't know if you guys saw the video, but Ripple redefines payments with end-to-end stablecoin platform and global customer momentum. And if you take a look at the stablecoin payments landscape, stablecoin, oh, oh, you know what? That is the website. I hear stuff. I got to mute the tab. I don't know what it is, but Ripple's website is super aggressive with the chat bot. It says stablecoin payments landscape, stablecoin access, on and off ramps, virtual accounts and wallets, payment processing, payment orchestration, custody, payment networks, wallet as a service, blockchain. It is extremely hard to compete with that at scale. And there's only going to be so many winners. And they are well positioned to be one of those winners. And, you know, will Tron have success? We will see. I don't follow Tron as much as I follow Ripple and XRP. So I'm probably not the best person to make a comparison against the two. I just, you know, I don't really love the founder of Tron. Like my personal, you know, observations and feelings is just not a great one. And you know, I don't really think you can compare Tron and the XRP ledger. I mean, you can compare like the speed and all these things, but like, I don't know. Is there a company like Ripple building on Tron that has institutional connections at that level? I don't know, man. You'd have to tell me. Hold on a second. Hey guys, I gotta go. Something's going on with Luna. I gotta go.